We are recording.
Good. I am John Larson, Amy's Tooth of Dave's going to talk about Ubuntu. Go.
Hi guys!
That's the abbreviated version.
Nice intro.
Hi Dave.
It's the Ubuntu shill again. Yay! Alright, so I had a very interesting...
Show us how Ubuntu hoses the
Huh?
audio.
Shows us what? Hoses what up?
Pulse audio.
Oh, I'm not playing with Pulse Audio tonight.
Oh,
That's next month.
See, that's wrong.
Alright, so what I've got tonight is a quick tour of the things that are new and exciting in 9.10. Or not exciting, but are new anyway. First of all, you might have noticed that that booted pretty fast. This is a P4 2.something gigahertz with 512 RAM. So it's not exactly.
I missed all that.
Huh?
You already
It was
Yeah.
in seconds.
Zoom!
512.
512.
What's it? This is
fast on solid state disk.
Yeah, I've heard reports of solid state disk just actually screaming. Whoa. All right. So, all right. Come on, mouse. You swipe a mouse.
Your mouse stop working?
Yeah.
Here.
It's connected. Can't run DH-.
Yeah. There it is.
Okay. All right.
I hit you. Oh, but it dies quickly. It's the surface you're probably on. Try your pants real quick.
Hey, look at that. Okay, fast boot. Very minimalist theme this time. I think this is a sand dune. Everybody notice the diagonal line. So, here's my notes.
usually this TH client.
Bear with me, I'm trying to find my way to Tomboy,
In the next version.
which is where I stuck the notes.
It's just not.
There we go. KDE users are hard to train. Okay. So, under the hood in both of the flavors tonight, ext4 file system is now installed by default. BetterFS is available, but that's a manual install, and you get to go make your own adventure there. Bootloader is now Grub 2. Kernel mode setting. I don't pretend to know tons about this, but I do know that I no longer have the clicky on the graphics every time the thing boots up. It's supposed to switch graphic modes much easier on Intel and Radeon chips, which means it will suspend to RAM and sleep better with less hangups. And there are fewer reinits along the way. Those are the things where the thing clicks and throws a splash page up and clicks again. New Intel graphics driver. That was a major point of pain in the last release, and the new driver seems to have fixed those problems. UDEV replaces even more of HAL for device management, and HAL's probably going to be gone, if it's not gone on the next release, certainly the release after that. Fast boot. Upstart continues to take over the init system. I'm going to play with this a little bit some more and bring in a couple examples next month. But The knit tab's being replaced by Etsy Init and Init CTL. I haven't played with those yet, but I will be doing some server type stuff, so I expect to be doing that. An encrypted home directory is available as a default option on install. I think that was available in the last version, but it still is. AppArmor profiles now protect cups, the guest environment. That's a good spelling there, Dave. Byron, there we go. And on this version, Software Center, which, yeah, well, maybe. Maybe that's an improvement.
I have a question on your ext4.
Yes.
That's still not ready for /boot, is that correct? Unless grub2 takes care of that. If you just do a
I
mount.
just did it. I did a very simple install on these. I didn't try to create a separate boot.
Okay.
So
I didn't know if the
Let's see
partition
what it
manager
does.
would do it.
I can answer that.
Okay,
It does,
good.
even with legacy.
Okay.
Grub2 handles the ext4?
As does Grub 1 if it's patched. I have mine running Grub 1 patched, it's working Grub and ext4.
So the,
excellent.
what's normally a 100 megabyte boot partition can be ext4?
It can be.
Okay. New stuff.
Icons all get changed?
The icons are changed. There's a new icon theme. There are better notification. Hey, I did update before I turned down here. There's my Tomboy notes. They showed up when I opened it. The on-off dialog has been brought. Some of these were missing at this location. You had to go in through the menu to find them, and those are restored, which seems like a much more reasonable way to do things for me. Ubuntu 1. If you have a Launchpad account, you are invited to get 2 gigabytes of storage for free. I don't have a network connection, but I did register today. It took me all of 5 minutes. However, I'm getting a client mismatch error. So we'll see how that goes. It says the client on your desktop is more advanced than the client the server is able to connect. And
So is this before or after your updates?
this is after my updates because it popped up the very last thing today. So we'll see how that goes. For a small fee, which I don't know, the next option is 50 gig of storage offline. Okay. Not much new in applications. The so-called Software Center. This is supposed to make things easier for Grandma. App Store. Right, the apps store. But I was kind of underwhelmed because the first thing I did was
It's synaptic. Oh.
and that's all I got. So, probably not. I probably won't be using that. And most of you probably won't either. Synaptic and apt are still there. They're over under the system menu.
Oh, so this is totally separate than that? It doesn't use the same?
It probably uses the same back end. It's
Probably
just
uses the same. Yeah.
simplified.
It's got to be built on apps. It's just.
Okay.
May I interrupt? I guess
Yes.
I thought everybody was going to that,
Policy kit
Yeah.
or package kit?
Package kit.
Ubuntu
So this
is
is
running
the-
package kit.
Yeah. I mean, there
Should
can
have in a
be
minute.
a front end to it. It just runs in the background. It interfaces to whatever packaging scheme the system's using.
Right. I guess I thought everybody was going to try to use package kit, and now they're using it through. Okay.
All right. The other change is GNOME has pulled Pigeon, formerly known as Game, and replaced that with Empathy. I have not tried Empathy. It doesn't appear to have IRC, and that's about all I use. So.
It uses the telepathy libraries, if I remember correctly.
Yes, it does.
So,
It should import your pigeon stuff, I believe.
but
Is that included?
it'll do
But
all that.
the nice thing about Empathy is it actually uses all the same GNOME notification stuff. The same boxes that pop up to tell you something's going on. Because it's all integrated.
So,
Is it supposed to be any more secure than Pigeon or anything like that? Yeah,
I wouldn't bet on
It's
it.
only as secure as the protocols you use.
Right. And what you allow to get through.
but then I mean, how hard your client is.
So,
I mean,
Berlin Box, movie player, let's see. Nope,
I suppose it
not a
stores
whole
the
lot in it.
passwords encrypted.
yeah, that's
I don't know if Pigeon necessarily does anymore. Or it ever did.
So that's it. The things that are supposed to be fixed, okay, sound, and yes, there's still plenty of pulse audio heartache out there on the IRC channels. So look for the .1 release to address some of that. There were a lot of usability things that were supposed to be ironed out. There was an initiative started over the summer called 1,000 paper cuts or 100 paper cuts. And basically they were looking for every little annoyance that they could find and getting it fixed. So it's been very solid. The people that I've talked to that were running beta haven't had any issues with it. I myself have not been running, I haven't been running beta because I've been preoccupied with dollar worth. So, but I'm going to, I'll let you know how it goes because I'm going to probably abandon KDE for 60 days and see what life's like as a GNOME user. So, or as they put it on KDE off topic, going over to the brown side.
Sounds dirty.
It does.
What did the
Okay.
brown side call it when you go to the KDE, the blue side? Or?
I don't know.
Can you reboot just because I want to see how fast?
All right, let's see how fast it is.
Is that your stopwatches?
Steady,
It's going to take 60
set,
seconds.
go.
Well, that's just until it starts.
And this is a P4 with the solid state drive or just a plain R?
This is a P4 with a plain old 40 gig hard drive with a
BIOS. Grub.
Timing's
Beep.
off.
There it goes.
Every time.
I wondered where all the little bars and displays were, and then well, they didn't really need them. They're not on the screen that long.
Do you press tab to get it? Like if you want to see.
He's escaped, isn't he?
Wow,
Not
that's-
enough time.
Yeah.
Now, is that theme you chose to be that dark, or is it that
It's
dark?
that dark.
Is
Faster than Windows 7.
And there you are. Ready to roll.
Do you know what it did on the inside to make it faster? Did it for some?
Well, a lot of the
It took
work,
a lot of the init
a lot of
stuff
work in
out.
UDEV and a lot of the init work. They pulled a lot of stuff out of init.
Did it do anything like in Windows, the prefetch and stuff? You know?
No, I don't know
I
that.
will do it.
I couldn't say. I don't live at that level.
Well, there's. I don't know if Ubuntu does the pre-link stuff. Or pre-links the libraries, but that's usually as the system's been running for a while.
I do know, I didn't see this in my Ubuntu install, but on my Kubuntu install, there was a ton of stuff deinstalled as installation completed. So a lot of stuff pulled out of
You
there.
want to get rid of it.
Let me ask you this: did it boot up just as fast the very first time you booted it up?
Yes.
Or did it boot up faster and faster subsequently?
No, fast, it booted up the same amount every time. I really didn't notice any improvement over reboots. All right, I'm going to shut this down. I'm going to throw the Ubuntu guy on there. That'll be a little shorter look.
Take your time. This is.
Enter.
And
What are you doing there, John? Can you look at this? Is it? Can you force TA to come out to? The IP address of the key.
It's 2100.
Yeah, but that shouldn't be what this is. I guess we should verify that.
That was what the original one was.
We restarted
Glad I could help.
So what's the difference between Ubuntu and installing the KDE desktop on Ubuntu?
well, you won't get all the GNOME libraries if you just install Ubuntu.
Yeah, but I mean, for the most part, it's.
As soon as you install Bracerow, then you got all the libraries. Or Rhythm Box.
Yeah, but usually the camera.
What has there been going? I've heard a few things about Rhythm Box spiking the CPU a lot on Ubuntu.
I have not heard that.
Oh.
I use Rhythmbox all the time. I don't have a problem with that.
Well, on the new version,
Not the latest version. I haven't tried it.
I was seeing some dents on Identica regarding it.
All right.
How many people have an Identica account? Anyone?
What's that?
It's like Twitter,
It's mini vlogging.
Oh.
but it has a nice feature where you can subscribe to groups. So if somebody says bang GNOME and you're watching GNOME, you'll see everything with GNOME in it. Or you'll see everything with Android in it or Rhythmbox or whatever. So you don't have to follow people to see what's going on with these other projects. You just say, these are my interests I want to know about, and then boom, 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 you see it.
You said bang, you mean just you type in exclamation mark?
Yeah, yeah.
B-A-N-G.
You know how they put hashtags in Twitter? Identica uses the bang. It'll do hash as well, but I find it a lot nicer to use than Twitter. It's all less crap. There's so much developer stuff in there that it's amazing to see and watch.
We do a lot of our development on there.
Arch Linux does a lot of development
Yeah.
using. What's it called again?
Identica,
Identity.com.
it's a Canadian address. They started in July of 2008. I was in the first 10,000.
It should be fairly close to you.
Yeah. They support OpenID. You can have it cross-post to your Twitter account, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, I got on Twitter again today.
It's kind of one of those things.
Is that Q-Lock?
Keylock?
Clock, like the international clock, that kind of looks like it.
Oh, it's part of the install,
Oh,
so I can choose my time zone.
oh, it's just the time zone. It's like, all right.
Okay, same basic hardware, a little more RAM. We got a gig of RAM in this one. It's probably a P24, I think.
Zoom. Anybody on the IRC channel?
Yeah, it's time to log in. So that didn't take very long
Wow,
at
that's
all.
pretty.
Isn't it?
It's like New Year's or Christmas.
Well,
with
you know,
cars.
Don't mock the KDE.
KDE is all about
I'm not
shiny.
mocking it.
It's all about the shiny.
It's 7 o'clock.
Give it a 3.5.
Better refresh that.
All right.
It's a
So this is my first experience with KDE 4. I waited until 4.3. I waited until most of the screaming had died down. I think Because I just, when I go home at night, I don't want to play with computers unless I'm working on something I really want to work on. So
That's a good philosophy.
I'm a big chicken that way. So the first thing is widgets. This is the approximate time widget. It calls it fuzzy time.
That's useful.
In a little while here, it'll tell you it's 5 after 7. That will be the next time shown. And this is a system load widget.
Wow.
2,793.
My really useful widget here is I've got the NOAA weather from Epley on this beautiful simulated LCD display, and I've got XKCD up.
With no, you won't get anything.
I won't get anything because there's no network connection. If you would like to add widgets to your desktop, here we go.
A bouncy ball for plasma.
Bouncy ball, all kinds of good stuff. That's the comic strip widget. And I'm sure there are a bunch of those that didn't come with this. Lancelot is an alternate menu, and I have not played with that yet. I've heard a couple of people comment that they liked it better. So the things I have up here right now are the system widget, the comic book widget, and the weather widget. Nice. Remember the milk to-do list thing? There isn't one on there for HiveMinder, unfortunately. Maybe HiveMinder has one and I don't know about it. Okay, so there's all that good stuff. Same stuff underneath as far as file system and everything.
Save the password that time.
Really aren't a lot of changes there. On the software side, oh, I don't have a network connection. I won't be able to do this. Okay, I was going to try
There's
this.
a cable behind you. I don't know if it's long.
Because the operating system is-
It's right over there.
Oh, grab this one.
It's possible with the,
Well, if that one's long enough, yeah.
Oh. Please stand by for plumbing.
Is that K Network Manager? Active.
Active. All right. So of course, application-wise, we have all KDE applications. However, we're sure that people are probably going to want to install Firefox. So there's a Firefox browser installer right on the menu. Let's see how well this works.
My password.
It's my highly secure password.
Your weather applet just updated. Or widget.
Yeah, how's that going? Oh, it's down to 46. Partly cloudy.
And also updated DXKCD.
Oh, the character thing.
Yeah. Never knew that Lord of the Rings was that complicated.
Up and down correspond loosely to northwest and southwest. Oh, that seems very painless. Let's see if it works. Oh, that's the installer. Dave. Settle down. There. Great. No problem. All right, so that worked well. The other thing that's happened is the open office stuff has been rethemed to work with widgets and the desktop. And it looks much nicer, and that's where my notes are, so let's go open that real quick. I can remember the rest of the things I need to tell you. What? There. Okay. The oxygen air theme. It's either soothing or boring, depending on what your persuasion is. The faster boot. There's supposed to be a bunch of new games. I haven't played with them yet. Updates are working much, or the notifications are working much more nicely. 9 bug fix. Let's see what that is. Darn Python guys. We'll worry about those later. The new system tray keeps track of what's running. Track of what's plugged in. The open office, I think the open office stuff looks a lot better than what I saw, because I saw a beta of 4.1. K3B has been upgraded to KDE 4. It was one of the last things to go, and I've heard that it can be a little buggy, so watch out for that. Amarok 2, I haven't heard nearly as many people complaining about that, so maybe they ironed stuff out towards the time they got it into the release. And you just saw the Firefox installer. So, all in all, it looks really nice. It's fast. And
that's how many megahertz?
this is a
2.7.
2.4, well.
Look at the system load and then it'll show you what the processor is. 2.7.
Okay,
Yeah.
2.8. So it was a 2.8.
Okay.
And it's got a gig of RAM in it.
Okay.
Cool.
So that's it. If anybody has any questions, I'll answer what I can. What I can't, I will go research and.
Can you pull up Identica on that?
Oh, you know what? Let's play with this for a minute here. I can't remember my Identica password.
I just showed the site.
There's a nice.
There's an applet for that,
Yes.
or widget, excuse me.
Gotta find it. Microblogging.
Actually shows a little bit. Identica's API.
It's following Ubuntu, so
Mhm.
it pops up with a couple of applications. Now the problem I've had with this, with KDE Wallet, is when I put my account in for Twitter, which is an email address and a password. It keeps prompting me for my password. So either
I think that's Twitter because their API sucks.
Okay.
Every other day I have to change my configuration or accept a new certificate every other week because they've changed something. Whereas, you know, the program will work fine one day, then the next day it stops logging in and connecting.
Yeah.
So,
Tomorrow I'll go get my Identica password, which I don't have right. Well, you know, I can try. Let's try.
well, we can just show the website so people can know what it looks like. And that's what I was curious about.
Let's do something. Let's see if I can. Now, do they use an email address? Or do they
No.
use-
You don't
No?
have to.
Let's try this.
There's your old message. So you must have gotten it right.
Yeah.
Who are you following on?
41309. All right, so that's what I joined.
Are you following anybody?
don't know.
I think you're following me.
Well, that behaves much better. Okay, website. I would have this stuff down on the toolbar.
There you go.
From the KDE microblog.
Oh, I'm on there?
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah?
Top one.
Where at?
No, no. Public
up,
timeline.
top
also.
entry. Up.
There we go.
There we go.
Top non-paid link.
Right.
Is your applet showing anything? I mean, I like their site design and everything. Oh, look, there's me. I'm in the public timeline. Well, how about that?
Yeah, I don't think I'm.
You're not even logged in. I feel privileged.
Gentoo found her to work on Grub for. Well, that is his favorite thing to do, is fork things.
There's actually a group there.
Yeah.
Well, at least there's somebody who wants to know when the word fork shows up. So Goblin X GNU Linux distribution comes in 4 different flavors now. Huh.
Figure it out.
Punching a koala in the face today. Our early adopters are
Outrage and frustration. Blank and flickering scheme, failure to recognize hard drives. Cats and dogs living together. Okay, well, you know, I'm on what I would call commodity hardware, so I had no problems.
So how does it encrypt your home directory?
because it didn't. I don't think
It
he's
didn't
got
ask you for a
enabled.
password, eh? I mean, that's an
I don't
option
think he
that
has it
creates a
turned
folder
on.
for you, right? Under that you can use.
I'm just pondering why you would care about encrypting your home directory when Ubuntu makes it easy to use de-encrypt to encrypt basically all of your hard drive.
Maybe it's, yeah, if somebody compromises your system, some recursive encryption, that have to get another password to get to your home directory.
Well,
So you're suggesting encrypt your entire hard drive and then also encrypt your home directory
Oh,
inside the encrypted hard drive?
I'm just thinking
You figure
Because-
say you're under, you have some cookies in Firefox, and you go to a website that's going to do a cross-site
eCryptFS.
eCryptFS is a stackable encrypted file
It may
system
have
that's
to-
put on top of the home
To
directory.
do that, it may have to get the password to that encrypted home directory.
or you're doing a server and you don't want to have that ask, sit there waiting for the password.
do not go out of the country if you're using your encrypted home directory. Let me just tell you that. Because if you come back and they find it encrypted, they will confiscate it.
That's why you just RAP remotely connect them to your machine.
You just have a blank machine and you take that with you and you remote to everything that you want.
Yep.
Now the links to Ubuntu 1 and so forth and so on have not been put on Kubuntu. That's something that's just
Isn't it
on
like
the GNOME side.
one.ubuntu.com?
So.
You
Hmm.
got a keyboard for this?
I'm
Okay.
surprised your widget hasn't updated. Oh, you're probably not following.
It's like, I even tried the on-screen keyboard. It doesn't work.
Let's see if I have to.
That's why those
Every 10 minutes.
Oh, timeline refresh.
The keyboard doesn't.
Oh, wait a minute. You just refreshed.
Maybe, I don't know.
Did you send out the I'm back? Is that what you did?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I need to get my icon on there. Okay, any other?
Oh, I see you. Okay.
One question,
Yes.
fresh install versus an update from the Johnny Jackalope to the Big Cola.
You know, I'm just not one of those people who likes to screw around with an update.
I don't, but it's sitting there right now at home and I can punch it really easy. Well, it'll take care of it. I'm afraid.
It took a long time, and I said not to interrupt it. My network connection died in the middle.
I get it.
And then,
I've got,
and then when I started it, I really did get 9.10 running, but GNOME never started, so I, like it was full terminal console, I don't know what happened.
I think I'll just have the phrases.
I have two email servers to do, and I realize that's just the server side. But since I have a backup, I am going to go a quote test box. I am going to go ahead and do that and try the update path on that.
Maybe I'll get rid of that Paul's audio problem I got.
Know about that.
Johnny Jack.
I'll know that Thursday or Friday. I'll post to the list when I get it done. That's if my other installation, which is a dishwasher, goes well. This is a non-vacation vacation week.
So is it it's not a release candidate, you're just gonna go straight in, huh?
Right. Okay.
Thanks, Dave.
Hey, you know what? Why don't you leave it up for a second?
Sure.
And then,
Go for it.
Yeah, I guess the VirtualBox is still got a long ways to go on that, so I should just skip it.
Yeah.
Okay.
These little atoms aren't necessarily the best for VirtualBox, I guess.
Is this like your personal system? Or
No.
is it?
It's a test system.
It's a test system.
Okay. Well,
So nothing has been installed, nothing's been tweaked.
Except he has control of your Identica account.
does he use Network Manager as a default?
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
They're put on your lap.
I don't know.
I don't think that's going to be on there.
Okay.
Console, KONSOL.
KON. No.
Acronautics?
You didn't want to do that. You would shut that off. There you go.
Do you have any idea what the Akonati server is?
A pain.
Oh,
Like I
boy. Close that sucker. Looks like it had a problem anyway.
Did that say it found a MySQL server?
Yes.
Yes.
MySQL's installed by default.
Apparently so.
Or
You do,
Probably
but
just
Yeah,
the
once you, that's
server
that bad
component.
boy. That's
Huh?
not dash
Probably
eight.
just the server component.
What is it? Is there an apt-get info analog?
Or LNT.
MySQL?
Right. At least I think it's
Sudo. You'll need sudo.
Okay.
There's gonna.
Now, I have a really high-tech password that I use for all my the default installs. And since there's no data on here, I can tell you that it's foo.
I noticed there was 3 characters.
Yes.
I normally do this.
I do have to argue with the install program. It doesn't want to let you put that stupid password on there. So. There you go.
Okay.
You have the power.
So you can now specify the root password and install.
Not the root password, your password.
Why don't they?
I don't set a root password.
I suppose can you guys see this screen
not
back there?
very easily.
Not so much.
Go to settings. Edit current profile.
It's hard
Okay.
to see.
Appearance.
So while he's messing with that, I'll tell you my
Green.
fun story
Ooh,
of the week.
That's not bad. The white.
Black on white?
Yeah, that's
A
better.
company
Increase the
that I
font
know of.
size at the bottom.
Purchased some software that is for PCI compliance. The software runs through
So
Sends out-
payment card industry?
Yes, it sends out agents to all your desktops, all your servers, pulls back reports, and then holds them up against a template, and then tells you where you need to fix things. So it's a pretty complex piece of software, and it's expensive, and a consultant came into town and spent a week training people on it. And as that consultant,
When you hold that up, is that like looking at a hanging chad?
no,
Okay.
more like a streaming PDF. So Friday came and the consultant was done and everybody was trained, and the consultant said, okay, I'm going to tear down the conference room. And he was our desktop into the SQL server database, that, or SQL, yeah, MySQL.
So he said shut
Microsoft
down.
SQL. Yeah, he said shut down. And when I jumped on the plane and when we tried to reboot it, it didn't come back.
Oh.
It came back up the next day after a phone call.
After what?
After a phone call.
That to
I
him?
always like, I love things like that when you consultants.
So is that consultant going to be used again?
Yes, because, you know, I've seen that dealt with by removing the shutdown icon off the menu, so you can't do that.
That one you already you can't shut down.
That wasn't screwed in, by the way.
What was the version I using?
I don't know, I think it's 2008.
Oh, that's probably why. What three takes that out?
So you said that was the Sansa Clip Plus?
Plus. They got it all messed up on the forum. Community forums, they got the clip and the clip plus, just one line up to the other. And all
I mean, they look functionally the same?
They look the same, but the operating system is not.
Hmm.
And the guys on the forum should have said clip plus up as a separate. Maybe they will.
So you could get the 4 gig and still have the card slot?
Yep. You get a 2 gig software slot.
Hmm.
4 gigs on sale this week at Best Buy for $40.
That's pretty good.
It's got an FM radio and stuff. It's actually really nice.
Does it record?
Yeah.
Like audio?
Yeah. So play FLAC and OGG and everything else. Well, you can play that crappy slot music that they came up with. Slot radio. Have you seen that?
Yes. It just doesn't go away.
No. It's actually one of their sound ones too. It actually sounds as good as the Fuse. Almost as good as the Fuse. Well, the Fuse actually sounds better than
Huh. I've used this in Conqueror and Fedora. Fedora 11? Huh.
Dope.
Well,
Well, you can tell the browser OK equals true is what it says.
You could tell the settings, yeah.
Yeah, you can tell at the end, just put colon, question mark, browser OK equals true, see what it says.
Yeah, it won't work very well.
It may work great.
Please note that it's a violation of FLAC.
our browser equals okay?
No.
Browser OK equals true is right down below. Or
It probably has some kind of spell checker in there that typo can.
I think
Unless you didn't put a T on the, or a D on the end of that sucker. And, yeah, I don't know if it's gonna.
Conqueror supports Ajax.
No? That's what do you think
runs
most
fine with,
browsers would support
Conqueror
right now?
database testing.
It's a file. The internet browser plug into it.
Well, this talk will probably have to be, I don't know, next month. But
What's it gonna be
Should've
next
brought-
month with Bob? What's the highlights?
so the idea is, I was working on setting up a web server 3 years ago, and had a lot of problems with it. And it was mainly, I mean, at different levels. I wasn't nearly as comfortable with Linux at that time. But it was CentOS, Community Enterprise Operating System, open source Red Hat Enterprise. And having 2 different gateways connected to the internet ended up being a lot more problematic than I would have thought. So, and I don't know if some of you may have noticed, I posted to the list a lot recently about ping is broken. So if, one thing I've tried to keep in mind from 3 years ago, when you use a capital I,
See that
that
the
specifies,
interface, the interface, right?
yeah. So this could be, usually it's, you know, ETH0, ETH1, ETH2, or it could be an IP address. And I noticed 3 years ago that it only worked if I actually specified the corresponding IP address for this Ethernet adapter. So if it wasn't the one on the default gateway, it didn't work. But several times over the course of the last 3 years, I'd still try to be putting this in and relearning again. You know, that's what's great about Alzheimer's. You can relearn the same thing over and over again and enjoy it every time.
You're not old enough for Alzheimer's, it's called part-timers.
All right. Yeah, because you set these machines up, you know, and if you're a small shop, you set them up once and you might not look at them for a long time. But you know, the other thing to look at here is you could use also, you know, a domain name out here, right? Or you could use an IP address again. So here's the thing, you know, to keep in the back of your head. If your domain name server is out at NIC 0, but you're trying to ping something that's going out NIC 1, if you supply an IP address, there's no problem, but that means ping's going to have to open up a connection to both NICs. To go out one NIC to get to the domain name server, and go out a different NIC to get the IP address. And after looking at some of the ping code, I'm amazed just how sometimes it's a little bad. But I don't know. I guess I was thinking that something like ping that, you know, I've been using for years wouldn't be a problem. So after that, and after having, you know, just years of problems with ping and setting up multiple gateways, I thought we'd set up some virtual machines here in the lab, and it'd be more hands-on, so you wouldn't have to listen to me talk so much, and everybody would be doing it themselves in a virtual machine, just setting up 2 different NICs, multiple gateways, and you do that in most versions of Linux. I can't say about BSD, and I can't say about Solaris, but this IP route 2 is what you have to use to do that. And you know, you normally might use ifconfig, but on a well-maintained, or normally a system will in the back end call IP route 2 commands. But again, it was going to be more of a lab than a presentation. So I might just cut this short, and do you think we just plan on that for next month?
Sure.
Yeah.
If you'd like.
So I think it could be I don't want to waste your time with me babbling on up here.
Well, why don't you explain what you were trying to do with the machines so we kind of get an idea
Of how problematic it is?
Yeah.
Okay. So,
just the setup involved to even just try to display what's going on.
Yeah. This, okay, and there's another guy. He's not here tonight, but he's actually, would Matt Marsh be one of the founding members of OLUG?
I don't know.
Yeah, okay.
If you ask him, he'd probably say yes.
This is right out of his book. I copied it right out of his book. It's at policyrouting.org.
Mm-hmm.
Matthew Marsh, he's from Omaha, still lives in Omaha, but he wrote one of the first books on this, and I think it was back in 1999. But essentially, like I was saying earlier, if you had a single Linux box that had more than one gateway to go out, I guess this isn't exactly what, I'm not sure. Yeah, this isn't even done. But essentially, what we're going to do, with a lot of help from John, is have a virtual machine running on each box so you could have root. And that would have, say, 3 virtual NICs in it that would appear as part of the LAN. That was one of our problems, because in Fedora, is what John and I both normally use, it seems. The default virtual machine software, at least in the GUI, at the GUI level, you can do it in the back end through some text files. Doesn't allow you. You can either, you can have host only VM, or you can have what they call a bridge, but it's really a NAT to a bridge. So it's not. There's no way built in directly within the GUI to make it easy to do it on a whole bunch of machines. To say, I want to create a virtual NIC, and I want it to appear like another network interface card, just like any other network interface card in the LAN. It only allows you to do host and doing a NAT, a NAT service. And we needed it for our purposes to be like a network card directly on the LAN. So that was one problem. So John used cluster SSH and installed VirtualBox on all the machines simultaneously.
Mm-hmm.
And then its dependencies. We got that, so I guess he got that running, but do you want to say anything about any problems you had with starting it?
Well, the VirtualBox had a dependency on Qt4 that was not pulled in the install, so I had to go around and reinstall Qt4 on all the boxes. Other than that, these add-on processes aren't necessarily the best for doing virtualization because I'm still running the install after an hour from a live CD. So hopefully we can get that deployed to all the machines. It should run okay. I mean, these machines all have 2 gig of RAM, so it's not like they're going to be having a problem running.
Are they dual core or are they the single
These
core?
are the single core 230s.
Okay. So, again, the idea being, I don't want to bore you guys with me talking a whole lot. I tend to get nervous. I know the last time I gave a talk here at OLUG, I got nervous and I said some things that were flat out lies. So I wanted to try to stay away from that and have a
interactive discussion.
Interactive discussion, hands-on tutorial that would keep me honest. I just got nervous and said some things I shouldn't have said. But it's really the IP route 2 stuff is it's pretty powerful. It's the same stuff they use to do traffic shaping. So if you wanted all your incoming packets to be marked with something and you route those packets differently, even if they're from the same source, you can do that with the IP route 2 and traffic control. It's the Linux Advanced Routing and Traffic Control. I think it's .org. And then Matt Marsh call it Policy Routing.
Mm-hmm.
He has a free ebook of the paper book that was published about 10 years ago. It's on this website. He says he's hoping to create another book. But essentially, the idea, what we're hoping to do today, is each of you would have a virtual machine. It would have 3 virtual NICs in it. The NIC 0 would just go out to the internet connection just like the hardware NIC does. And then NIC 1 would go out through another Soho firewall to a hidden machine, essentially. Because it's hidden until you get the gateway set up correctly. And then the same thing would have a 3rd and 4th Soho gateway. That if you got to this, you could think of hidden machine B as like a, I guess another way to call it be a hidden internet.
Treasure Island.
Yeah. So, does anybody have any comments, questions, suggestions, complaints about that?
So how many routers did we wind up total with? Was it 3 or 4?
We had 4 physical ones, 2 that actually 2 that worked.
We had 2 that actually worked. We had one that had a bad corrupted flash, wouldn't store the configs, and one that we could never actually get into.
So the DD work one, was that one working?
Both of the 2 that were running DD worked fine.
Okay. And that other
And
4-port thing didn't work?
This one wouldn't save configs.
I would say it couldn't write to the flash.
Bad flash error.
So, this is Daniel Griffiths, by the way. He helped out a lot. He's just moved here from Philadelphia.
Technically from Delaware.
Delaware.
I'm from Philly. My wife's from Delaware. We lived in Delaware before I moved here.
About the
Go Phillies.
when you were talking about the DHCP server, you were saying that you can assign an address based upon the vendor, but not that part of the MAC address?
You could do it, as I understand it, you can do it either way.
Okay.
So you could have 2 MAC addresses from the same family and declare that this MAC address is from one vendor, this other MAC. Well, kind of misspeaking here. I think, if I understand the manual correctly, man on ping's wrong, so I guess man on the
That's possible.
It's the
You can certainly do DHCP assignments based on single static MAC addresses.
yes. What we wanted to do was have getting back to the 3 virtual NICs in our VirtualBox OSE virtual machine. Is one would say it's vendor A, and the other one would say it's vendor B. And with a single DHCP server, using Internet Systems Consortium's DHCPD, it can say, it can recognize, okay, this machine or this node is saying it's vendor B. So I'm going to give it this class of IP addresses, this IP gateway, all this set of IP information. Another NIC might say it's vendor A. And it gets the DHCP daemon, gives it a totally different configuration. I think it's actually a string that's passed along during the DHCP request. So it doesn't necessarily have to be tied to the MAC address. But I think one of the reasons there was a reason I kind of wanted to do it that way instead of just based off MAC address. I think because we were going to be basically creating these virtual machines on the fly, and since we wouldn't know what the MAC address is necessarily ahead of time,
It would
the
be
vendor-
something that's something at least guessable from VirtualBox that you can say, you know, if it's always going to be similar to this, then just hand it out to them.
yeah. There'd be some kind of string in the configuration file for the DHCP client software in the VirtualBox machine that would be different for each virtual NIC. And then the other thing is we could, cat out var log messages, and DHCP daemon is going to tell us, hey, vendor B just requested an IP address. This MAC address from vendor A just requested an IP address. So And we can see on both ends, both in the client and on the server, that supposedly what vendor we're working with. Wow.
Just don't fall off.
Yeah. There's something else I was just going to say. Oh, the reason I found out about that is I'm sure a bunch of you here have networkable APC battery backups. And the networkable APC battery backups that I have, I plug it into our LAN and I want to get an IP address. And after figuring out that by default, at least the APC battery backups that I have, if it doesn't get a response back from DHCPD saying that this is for an APC box, it doesn't get an IP address. It won't take it. And it's actually it's a good thing, because I'm sure if you're in a data center and you got 1,000 battery backups, you don't want them on the same LAN as the guy running his open IRC daemon. So, oh God, so it's a simple. It's well, maybe what I should. I don't know. If I'm talking too much, just,
No.
Yeah. So what I'll do is, I bet. I haven't used Ubuntu in a long time, so I don't know if this is.
It might not be installed.
It's .conf, not by default.
That's
You do
Mozilla.
have a match if option. DHCP vendor identifier equals JRCM for
Oh, in the.
in the DHCPD.conf man page. Yeah, section 5.
Actually,
It's right below your mouse.
The first one. Search on vendor. Keep searching.
It's a little bit farther down.
Again. There you go.
Okay. So in your DHCPD.conf,
See, Mark is over by the laptop.
thanks. This is in, I don't know what it's like in Ubuntu or Debian, but in Fedora Core 11 and
I think it's
under Etsy, there's going to be a DHC in 11.
Oh.
In 11, they make
changed
a
it in 11.
subdirectory for both
Yeah.
DH
That's right.
client, which when network manager's giving you a lot of problems, this is one of the best things to go to. Personally, I have to uninstall network manager on almost every machine I use. Well, if it has more than one NIC, network manager is useless to me. So this man page, we're talking about the DHCPD.conf file. So say you're Cox.net, you're running a DHCP daemon, so you want to give Motorola cable modems one set of IP addresses and configure, actually they're probably doing this to give Motorola cable modems one TFTP image and say Toshiba cable modems a different TFTP image. So, and you can even break this down more by the version. Most of the man pages I've seen, they're talking about X terminals and bringing up different versions and different brands of X terminals. So
Tells
that
you how old the manual pages are.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, in some way. But it's getting back to that. I've been doing a lot of stuff with diskless remote boot in Linux and maybe the Linux terminal server project. And that's kind of the same thing. You send it a different PXE-based TFTP image, based on, whether I got an HP machine with parallel IDE drives. I might have to send a different image if I got a HP machine configured in SATA or in RAID. And you can take care of that through Mac or through setting a vendor ID. Sometimes it's better though just to use the vendor ID. So if you had an APC battery backup,
Stop.
Oh, not the battery.
That always works.
I thought it was a chair. I didn't.
It was Quake, sorry.
Oh, it's okay.
These connections run Quake.
Yeah.
Wow.
Not well, but
Very poor hearing in my right ear. It sounded like cloth tearing.
that's not the best audio. I apologize. Sir.
No problem.
I really am sorry.
So it didn't bother me. But, so say you had some networkable APC boxes. You might have to create it. I forget exactly what I had to do. It's been a couple years, but you probably have to create a class within your DHCP daemon. You might call it APC, but then you have to match this string.
And is it necessarily going to say that it's APC, or is it going to be who APC farmed out for the hardware on the stack for that chip?
That's I couldn't answer that, but what I can tell you is that it should show up, in
messages.
When the device sends a DHCP request, wouldn't it be in there?
It should.
Isn't that what it's matching? When the device sends the DHCP request, isn't it in there?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So worst case scenario, you can use Ethereal and find out what that string
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, just find out what it sends out when it does the request.
I don't think there is such a field in the DHCP request. All you have is the MAC address of the requested box.
It can send a string. I wonder if I might be able to. That's
You're
fine.
right, in
The
the
RFC.
older version of DHCP, haven't they updated that?
Use this blue one.
Any
I'm sorry.
DHCP is capable of.
It's brand new.
6
Well, I tell you what. Can we?
should have something like that. Speaking of.
Can you SSH into your DHCP daemon? We're going to show them. Now, having said that, there is a huge set of differences in what the DHCP clients obey and can accept. Especially if you're doing stuff, I've done a lot of stuff with pre-boot execution environment. So the machine's booting up off the network card. And it's always a good idea to see if you have a BIOS update if you're doing that, and it often has to do with the software in the BIOS that's doing the PXE booting and the DHCP request. Oftentimes it doesn't handle that very well. So
That was from this morning.
can you grep that through DHCP? Just please. Okay. Does this say Lenovo?
Yep.
No, is
Yep.
that the date?
That says Lenovo. So look at the previous line, 408803DF. It's the same machine. Here's the request and here's that.
Oh yeah, here we go.
Yeah, somehow that string is in there.
Yeah. This is what we're talking about. This is the vendor ID. And you don't have to match that whole thing. You can match just LEN, or you can match Lenovo, or it's just depending on how specific you want to get. They do that a lot in Clonezilla to because it does a lot of NFS type Pixie booting.
Now these here, these are the IPs I'm assigning to the lab workstations specifically, and it doesn't have a string in it. These are all these Realtek machines.
Yeah, I hear a lot of complaints about Realtek when it comes to
Huh.
Pixie
Okay, yeah,
booting.
there's a variable length list of options that would be
Yeah.
in the request.
Yeah, it's actually a lot more advanced than you'd ever think that it'd need to be.
Yeah.
So Lenovo, were there any Lenovo's down here? Or was that his?
There was some Lenovo's being used in a class earlier today.
I see.
But we'll see if we can find Dave's machine up here.
Well, actually, yeah, if you go into, Dave's machine, go into the dhclient.conf, you could set up a vendor ID and it should show in here.
Let me go down a few more hours.
Now wait a minute. I see Craig Wolf's laptop. That's got to be a machine name rather than a vendor name.
Yeah, Craig, is that your machine name?
That's my machine name.
Okay.
There's someone's BlackBerry.
Yeah, I see a couple of crackberries in there.
Now is that somebody walking by or is that somebody in the room?
Oh, is this is Wi-Fi too?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's getting the Wi-Fi stuff.
If you want, you could open up another
You got Mac.
console, and we could.
What's the console? Is there a new? How do you do new tab in console? Just file. I can't hit Alt F.
You're gonna.
What is this mouse world?
I wholeheartedly agree. That's
Control Shift N.
As opposed to Control Shift T.
that makes so much sense.
What do you what?
Oh, do see if there's a dhclient.conf under Etsy. Yeah.
Interesting.
Okay, so I think you can do it as an
Send
option.
host name. See, there's the option.
Yeah.
So if you wanted to have it say, listen for hosts by name, you know, in a way, it's kind of like shortcutting it. You don't have to always remember the IPs. Someone left their config in there
Yeah.
from the Ubuntu install.
And then
Somebody at Swift Media.
it's probably from almost
Well, that's
10
a long
years
time ago.
So there's different, you know.
Ubuntu hasn't been around that long.
It's Data Debian.
Yeah, they pulled that from Debian.
That's true.
So in here, in the VirtualBox OSE VMware or VM image, we would set, instead of, you know, I guess we could maybe specify the MAC address, but I think it'd just be easier to specify in here somewhere we specify a vendor ID, and we were just going to have.
Wouldn't that be this client identifier or like send host name? You just send it as part of that.
But it's going to be when we create a new instance of
Well,
that.
they're going to have to change it. It's their machine at that point.
Oh, it's true. They could do it that way, but
They got to work.
for some reason I was thinking this would be easiest when we're basically dynamically creating these virtual
Sure.
machines. Yeah, I don't know.
It's a one-time change.
While we're talking about this, there's a leases file that Network Manager often will reuse an old lease from a totally different network. But even worse, when you have, because all you really have to do is go find this leases file. I think it's dhcp.leases. It says at the end of the man page for it. But when you have multiple gateways on the same LAN, oftentimes it doesn't change all those things it was talking about. Can you go down? So, all right, we go up right here. So this stuff here, this means when the DHC client requests an IP configuration, it wants a subnet mask, a broadcast address, time offset, routers. You could put in an NTP server. And there's a whole bunch of other things. I mean, there's literally like 200 things you can, it's at least 166 different things you can request. And oftentimes these DHCP clients are buggy, and it might give you, say, a new subnet mask and a new IP address. I think that should be in there somewhere, but not update your gateway or routers.
So you may not inherit the new route, and so
Yeah.
you're stuck with the old route.
So, I mean, I just find that uninstalling Network Manager, or at least turning it off, and deleting all these leases files, because I had on a machine leases from years before. I mean, since they were, years. From CentOS 4, probably 4.4, and I still had it in CentOS 5.4. So after deleting those leases files, it cleaned up a lot.
Well, Network Manager should only be really used if you're like doing a laptop.
Yeah, but
and that's traditionally what it's used for. It's not. If you're in a
But
production
even on a
environment,
laptop.
you shouldn't be using it.
Even on a laptop, I connect that to a wired network and a wireless one. But by default, with Network Manager, I only have one default gateway. That's a problem. Grandma's got to be able to use this. If I tell Grandma, okay, you bring over your laptop.
Connecting 2 NICs on her freaking laptop. Right?
It's simple, because Grandma's going to come over with her laptop, and I'm not going to let her plug in to my wireless LAN. I'm not going to let her wirelessly connect to my LAN until I have more of her information, like her MAC address, and maybe she has to copy down a WPA key that's this long.
64 characters long.
Yeah. So I'm not a big fan of wireless LANs. It's some of the but essentially, I mean, really, Network Manager wouldn't have to be modified all that much to make it so that Network Manager does what we were going to do in this class tonight. Just go through all the steps necessary for you to have multiple simultaneous gateways on your Linux box. It really isn't that hard. There's this.
Can you assign weights to them that way?
Network Manager's open source, fix it, and
There you go.
upload your patch.
Yeah, that's. So
show us how it's done.
Under this folder, and it's under Ubuntu and Fedora and CentOS. And you can do I think it's a man on IP route. I don't think you put, it's not IP route 2 for the man page. Anyway, under this folder, there is a plain text file, very small, and it's called route _ table or tables?
Tables.
Plural?
Plural.
Okay. All it really has to do is add in something like, say, 200, and then next 0.
Like that?
Like that, and then
Like that.
211 for and then Nick 1.
What's that? Did you just put? I
It
put
was
that
already
in.
there.
I just typed that in earlier.
You did?
Yep.
No.
You did.
Yeah. Yeah. Look at the modified time. Anyway, so maybe I should come up with a different name than NIC 1 and NIC 0. But these are going to be IP routing tables. So using the.
Go ahead. You can erase my stuff. You don't need the ping stuff anymore.
So you can do something like, what did I do with my good pen?
It's in with that jumbo bad thing.
No, it's not.
Look at me.
What the?
Are you thieving them?
What's
Would
that?
you rather us type it on the terminal?
Sure. Yeah, in fact,
Tell me what to type.
Just do IP rule help. Oh, 3 words. IP rule help. Okay. So, Network Manager, after adding some routing table names, NIC 0 and NIC 1, then it would add a rule. I don't know how much I should really get into this or leave it to the next session, but it's probably worth it to do. The thing is, routing, when you normally think of it, it's normally been used, it's destination-based. You don't have any routes based on the source of where you're coming from. So if you have 3 NICs in your machine, can you do IP route? 2 words, IP route, and just hit enter. Okay. And then to start over. Just type in route, enter. This is how I used to do it. Okay. Now do IP route show table defaults. It's plural, not plural. It's single, not plural. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Do change default to main.
To what?
MAIN. So if you look at the output from IP route show table main, that should be exactly the same, except this one isn't numeric right at the moment. By the way, the destination route 0.0.0, that's default. It's the same as down here. Stand back for a second. So when you're using IP route this way, it's really essentially the same as the old style way of just using route, or some people prefer netstat. Is it netstat minus R? I don't remember. But with these IP rules, can you go back to do IP rule and then list, or IP rule show? So, yeah, and this looks just exactly like Fedora. Again, I can't really say about BSD, Solaris. I don't even know if, does Arch have IP route too?
Yes.
Okay. It's a Linux thing. I don't know if it's gone really beyond that. But
Purely Linux.
who said that?
Purely Linux.
Okay. That's what I was thinking. I guess I couldn't say for absolute. So what this is saying, the first thing it's going to do when it's going to route something, it's looking at these 3 rules. The first thing it's going to do is look up in table local. So you could do IP route show table local, and it's going to have all your localhost stuff.
That's all through the 127 localhost.
And if your route isn't satisfied by the local lookup table, then it's going to look at the main lookup table we just looked at. And then if it's not satisfied by anything, it can go to that default table. So what we need on a multi-NIC system is say, if you have a ping request or any kind of socket that's trying to open up on NIC 1, that it knows to use the gateway associated with NIC 1. It might be a totally different internet service provider. If it has a socket, by the way, the definition of a socket is a source IP address, a destination IP address, a source port, and a destination port, and then it's internet protocol family like UDP, TCP, ICMP, stuff like that. So, and when you when you do a socket request in Linux, well, I'm no expert, so don't quote me verbatim, but oftentimes what you'll get, I believe, is either a 0.0.0 address or a localhost address, or you might get one of your assigned IP addresses. Really depends on how you do it. So earlier when when you try to do a ping, and then with a capital I to specify the interface, the idea is that it's going to go out that NIC. But you need a routing rule to say, if I'm going to use this NIC, this is the gateway I got to use. If I'm going to use this other NIC, this is the other gateway I got to use. And IP rule, I'd recommend just doing IP rule help, and because I can't really show you in here without two NICs, or and to be really and to be really certain it's working, having not just two NICs, but then two different gateways that you're going through. Because most of the time, we have a SOHO router that has a, the wired gateway is the same as the wireless gateway. So you don't notice that problem until you're actually on a network with two different gateways.
I can see a situation nowadays where that could happen, especially on laptops.
VPNs?
Well, yeah. With the wireless carriers having IP devices now, but they also have Wi-Fi built into the machine. You could be in a situation where you've got Wi-Fi access, but you got the card in also to improve your throughput for doing.
So you're saying you have a 3G card and an 802.11 card?
Right.
And your old Cat5 cable?
But yeah, you could plug that in too if you've got a wire or something to plug it into, yeah.
And then
But just with the 802.11 N or G or whatever you've got, that most laptops have built in these days. And then with the 3G or 4G plug-in, USB probably plug-in card accessing whoever's wireless network, Sprint or AT&T or whoever, you could easily have two.
Yeah. And I normally have three.
But if you're downloading with BitTorrent or something like
that. You don't want that over the
so when you
cellular provider.
When you do
some of the elements on it too.
So what he's talking about is Kevin, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So what Kevin's talking about, you're plugged into your Cat5 LAN, you got one gateway. When you turn on your wireless, you know what happens normally, from what I've seen, is if it gets a new gateway, it could very well overwrite the old gateway. So all of a sudden, you can't get to anything on your wired network. And hence the impetus for this talk tonight, or hopefully next time will be a tutorial.
Well, I might even have two independent networks outside that you'd be able to use.
Yeah. I mean, the more proof different it is, it's, incidentally, one of the times I posted the CentOS mailing list about having two different gateways on the machine, the most overwhelming response I got was, well, that's stupid. Why not just bond your two NICs into the switch? I'm like, you guys don't get it. Basically, I have two different internet service providers. And I don't have the expensive switches that can handle multiple gateways. I'm just talking inexpensive SOHO stuff. And then really, when they're saying to do that, they're basically saying, lean on Linux. I mean, lean on Cisco or lean on one of these other providers that do what do you call it? Just internet redundancy of some kind. So, what time is it?
It's 8:10.
Oh, okay. Well,
or 9:10 if you adjust the daylight savings time.
Anybody have any questions or comments? Just wrap it up and we'll. Okay.
Okay.
All right, thanks.
Sure. So, next month, a more complete discussion on this.
If my wife doesn't kill me in the meantime. Hey, you know
Everybody
what?
runs that risk.
There is something, though, on a totally different subject. Did anybody see the FDIC report came out in the last week? And another one came out in September. Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation. Not talking about closing of banks, talking about the warning that was put out by FDIC about mostly Russian hackers that are able to get into corporate banking. Even if you have one of those key fobs that generate a synchronized random number that only you have,
It's not
well,
just you have it anymore.
yeah, you're not the only one that has it, because that generally creates a session. Can you do a search, a Google search for
The FBI actually has also been talking about that in the last couple of weeks.
yeah.
This is
What's
really-
frustrating is that it's been known for 3 years.
Right, I know.
But also the accessibility of creating your own, that you can actually generate your own and have it operate on a BlackBerry, an iPhone, and that have a corresponding key between what's on your server and what shows up here. And that's
Are you
how-
talking about one way around it, maybe, as to what Bruce Schneier talks about is not authenticating the person only, but you also have to authenticate the transaction. So you might get an out-of-bound message on your cell phone to say, okay, this is, you just asked us to deduct $10 million out of your bank account and transfer it to this place in the Cayman Islands. Are you sure you want to do that? If so, here's the PIN code on your cell phone. You got to enter it in your web browser right now, or this transaction will not go through. I maybe open up a different tab. Do a different search on, I want to say URL zone and Zeus crimeware. That'd work. ZEUS. I mean, I really don't want to take all your time, but I think this is important enough that that's actually, it's basically something you can buy. You want to create a botnet. You install this Zeus. You can actually, to back up, a lot of this crimeware. You're probably familiar with the HoneyNet project, right? You heard of that?
Yes.
It's a so back in 2006 or so, Google and this HoneyNet project, and I'm sure some others, started noticing that machines were getting infected solely by visiting a website. Basically, you install a rootkit just by visiting a website. You would have no idea. Didn't necessarily crash your browser.
Windows machines were getting infected.
Yeah, but Mac and Linux as well, unfortunately. Not most, predominantly, it was.
They had to be running their web browser from root then.
Well, even if it wasn't running as root,
They
could run.
There are known privilege escalations in Unix that will allow you to get from a normal user to root privilege. But the Zeus botnet mostly infects Windows machines. It's typical drive-by malware. You go to an infected website, you get compromised. The Zeus botnet software takes over your machine, and in particular, they've been targeting people who are doing ACH and wire transactions for small
Automated
businesses,
clearinghouse?
for small businesses, and they're transferring money to money mules who then wire the money mostly to the Ukraine. The problem is small business accounts are not protected in the same way that your personal bank accounts are. So the bank does not have to make the small businesses whole when the small businesses lose money. And there have been tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of losses already to this kind of crime. So it is very dangerous.
Yeah, it's scary, to me.
So you're saying the less sophisticated these small businesses, the less chance of them.
Yeah, I mean, because typically the business doesn't find out about it until like their end of the month statement, and then it's already too late. I mean, unless they complain unless they notice it right away within like 24 hours.
Well, if they don't do any computerized banking, then
then they should be okay.
Unfortunately, it's becoming, I mean, I run a small business, and it's becoming increasingly difficult not to do computerized banking.
I know. I advise somebody and they still, you know,
Here's one of the
everything
things
is-
these botnets can do.
They got QuickBooks, but they just use it to print checks. They don't do anything.
One of the things this crimeware will do is when you go to your online banking website and you look at it, it'll look totally normal. You did a transaction to you did your payroll for $10,000 in the middle of the month, and that's when you go to your online banking website. The crimeware will make it look like only $10,000 went out. But you know, they cleared you out completely. So, I mean, it's frustrating because a lot of this drive-by rootkit, just by visiting a website, was known about 3 years ago, and you just don't. I don't know why it's not talked about more.
Because nobody wants to stand up and say, hey, I lost, $700,000,
Yeah.
Little flower shop, I think, lost 300,000, 30,000. I mean, they're literally can be totally cleared out because these hackers, usually in the Eastern Bloc, they know exactly how much money is in your account. And then you brought up the money mule. Well, one of the other reasons I was thinking about talking about this tonight was that I saw a job advertisement recently to be a secret shopper. And it was to be a secret shopper to test out online banking. And that's perfect. It's one of the most common ways now that they're employing money mules. And by a money mule, I mean somebody's going to transfer money to your account. You take out 8-10% of it, and then transfer it back to this international bank account or another account, which then it goes to another money mule.
Money laundering.
Yeah, it's money laundering.
The problem is the mules get it in the neck when the bank comes to try and recoup
Yeah,
their losses.
That's who the feds come looking for, is the.
But they'll make it sound and make it
Yeah,
appear
work
like
from home, earn thousands of dollars per week working at home.
Websites like workfromhometv39.com.
Do you have, was it MPAC, M-P-A-C-K? Was that one of the things mentioned in the HoneyNet project?
I don't remember.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. And if you look at the MPAC, if you go to honeynet.org, which I should redirect you to some school in Australia, there's a long paper they have, MPACK. And maybe the Zeus one will bring it up too, but it's basically they'll give you a portal into your own botnet that you control. And it'll say how many browsers are running Firefox, how many are Internet Explorer 6, how many are Windows 98, how many are Mac OS, and how many are Linux. And I know I've seen some that'll be Firefox on Linux. And I think even at that time, it was the most up-to-date version of Firefox. That gets into a whole discussion of patch management and how you always have to keep updated. And then to me, I can keep Linux updated much more easily than I ever could a Windows box.
Well, because Linux distributions actually issue patches in a reasonable amount of time. Generally,
but even looking at Adobe Flash Player, Adobe Flash Player and Adobe Reader, if you needed to update those, I hate it. At least in the Windows world, I have to do that, and I hate it. I have to log into Adobe's website, send them a license agreement, download it, modify the MSI so I can push it out to our LAN. Well, heck, in Linux, you just add a repository to Adobe's add it. It's basically always kept up to date. But
As long as it's your computer. When the computer belongs to an application, then life gets considerably more interesting.
yeah, and it's kind of one of the reasons I brought up encrypting your home directory. I don't do it, but anyway, that's it. I'm thirsty. I could use some beer.
So we'll look forward to that next month then.
Here I can access the on-screen keyboard.
Out of appointed? Out of appointed?
Oh, yeah, good.
Just hold dash.
Only on the Windows side.
19 to 69%.
One Linux admin equals 4
Get to the
Windows.
point, we need bigger screen.
One Linux head equals 4 Windows heads?
Yeah, tens are getting, I
Do
feel it's like
this
11.
instead of this.
Yeah, the 11 just got a little better screen.
They've always said, you know,
11.6 everybody else picked up.
for Windows, you need one guy for 5 machines. Linux, you need one guy for 30.
Underpowered.
Yeah.
You get, something like 630 megahertz.
Remember you having that one.